US President Donald Trump has departed for his high-stakes three-day visit to China. Well, this as he seeks to ramp up trade despite potential friction over Taiwan and Iran. Leaving Washington on Tuesday, Trump said he expected a long talk with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping about Iran. Listen in.
Well, I think, number one, we're going to have a long talk about it. I think he's been relatively good, to be honest with you. You look at the blockade, no problem. They get a lot of their oil from that area. We've had no problem, and he's been a friend of mine. He's been somebody that we get along with.
Well, this trip, the first since Trump visited Beijing in the year 2017, will involve high-stakes talks with Xi on Thursday and Friday during a packed itinerary that includes a state banquet and tea reception. The US president told the media that among the several items for discussions with China, trade would be the key focus area. Other topics on agenda include Taiwan. On Monday, Trump said he would speak to Xi about US arms sales to Taiwan. It marked a departure from historic US insistence that it will not consult Beijing on its support to the island. Well, Trump is accompanied by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, White House Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair, among others, aboard Air Force One. And for more on this, we are being joined by WION's correspondent Susan Tehnani, live from New York. Well, Susan, welcome to the show. Can you please tell us what exactly are we, assessing from the summit that is going to happen in just like next day from now?
Right. So President Trump's visit to China almost 10 years after his visit in 2017 comes at a critical time. It's a high stakes meeting between the two men. Tensions over Iran, global shipping, and of course, technology and trade, as you mentioned. I think it's noteworthy that Marco Rubio, the now Secretary of State, is heading to China. Remember, there was a travel ban and restriction and sanctions against Marco Rubio when he was senator a few years ago because of comments he made regarding China's human rights violations, the treatment of Uyghurs, and also the issue of Hong Kong as well. So having Marco Rubio at this summit is very noteworthy. It shows that China has lifted those restrictions and prefers to leave the lines of communication open. Now, President Trump may be going into this summit with some concerns. On the one hand, since 10 years ago, China has somewhat been able to bypass a lot of America's restrictions. It's now equal or even surpassing in a lot of technologies, including batteries and robotics, and it has the world's largest naval fleet. But on the other hand, China is in a weak spot domestically. There's slowing growth, there is consumer spending that's weak, and there is pressure on its energy supplies because of the conflict and the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So the U.S. still has some major advantages through the dollar, advanced technologies like semiconductors, which the United States has restricted on China, and of course AI. And it has a very larger military power ultimately than China. So analysts and observers are going to be looking at this trip very closely, not only because of the issues I mentioned, but because of the fact that President Trump, departing the United States to China, said that he does not need China's help in dealing with Iran, and that the United States will handle Iran's nuclear ambitions one way or the other, through diplomacy or the use of force. Now, this is, of course, something that the president might say outwardly, but it's hard to imagine that the Trump administration will not take China's assistance if Xi Jinping ultimately offered it, and if there is any sort of backdoor agreement between the two sides regarding Iran. Because after all, remember, China is the biggest customer of Iranian oil. It gets about 90% of Iranian oil into its country. So it's a very important topic, notably for Xi as well, despite the fact that they've been trying to bypass, this blockade and the sanctions that have been imposed. Ultimately, that is a topic that Xi will bring up and possibly try to, play a more colorful mediating role between the United States and Iran, if not outwardly. And of course, the issue of Taiwan can't be underestimated. Taiwan is going to be on the agenda as well. The president says he doesn't need China's help regarding Iran, but he did say that they're going to talk extensively about Iran during this trip. So a lot to watch.
Correct, and you've already summarized everything, but I would like to ask you one more question, Susan. What are the major areas of tensions right now between the US and China? I know that you've already summarized everything, but can you please get us some more details on the same?
So, on the one hand, you have the issue of tariffs, which is very important. There is the issue of technology and trade and intellectual property, which is very important. The president is also going into this meeting really with some concerns dating back to 2017 and during his first term. The origins of COVID really were not outwardly discussed by China. There's the issue of fentanyl coming into the United States, one of the drugs that kills many Americans. And then there is the unfair trade practices on the part of China. You have really American farmers, American workers really concerned about Chinese trade practices. The issue of whether or not China will, for example, buy more soybeans from the United States. U.S. farmers are going to be watching that. And this import competition where China is really flooding American markets with its products, and it doesn't go the other way around. And that's something that the Americans are very concerned about. Of course, for the Chinese, the issue of AI, semiconductors, and technology, and of course, those tariffs as well are an area of concern.
Correct. We'll just have to wait and watch what exactly happens during the summit and what exactly are we getting from it. But thank you so much, Susan, for joining us and getting us all the details.